In our first story, President Kufuor has admitted that Ghana is currently facing tough economic times. The cedi continues to depreciate against major trading currencies and has been ranked the worst performing currency among top African currencies. Fuel prices also continue to rise, but President Kufuor says he's optimistic of a timely recovery. He spoke during an interaction with a delegation from the Nigeria's F&B Bank at the Jubilee House.
The difficulties that all of us is having differing impacts on the different economies and countries. But the root causes of it are well known, and there are matters that we have to also resolve together. I believe that at the end of the day, it is this cooperation across borders in our regions that will give us the strongest base in which to deal with the problems that have emerged.
The president also noted the banking sector cleanup has left a resilient banking sector to support economic growth. This comment comes at a time when ratings agency Fitch has downgraded 2 leading local banks.
To find a strong financial system, I'm sure you must have followed the efforts that my government did to try and strengthen, sanitize and clean up some people go forward to say almost on the brink of collapse, but very harsh but necessary measures have to be taken to bring it back to sanity. I think that today we are satisfied that the financial and banking system is on much stronger foundations in Ghana today than it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And that gives us a lot of hope that's ever been in our history.
State prosecutors handling the Olive Barca case at the district court on Tuesday failed to show up in court. Now, this left the judge hearing the matter infuriated. Justice Eleanor Barnes-Wache warned that she will not tolerate such a conduct. Court correspondent Joseph Akabley has the latest.
A member of the legal team for the youth activist, Dr. Justice Shremsai, urged the court to discharge the youth activist failed to show up. It would be unfair to discharge the accused person, especially because just 24 hours prior, the team had showed up at the High Court where the bail application had been argued. She, however, pointed out that she would not countenance such a conduct and also noted that even the documents necessary for the court to make a determination whether this is a case that merits being sent to the High Court for trial have also not been filed. She therefore warned some police prosecutors who were present to inform them the case was adjourned yet again, with a Fix the Country convener being remanded into police custody. The expectation of the court is that on March 29, when it returns, at least some good news will be received by way of the filing of the bill of indictment. For JoyNews from the Ashaman District Court, my name is Joseph Akabley.
Let's go to the Ashanti region, where scientists at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology are advising food vendors not to cook the meals at low temperature, fried rice and soup. In our series on food safety, JoyNews medical stringer Dr. Netta Posram speaks with the lead scientist, Gloria Matanda Nkarberu.
Do you relish burnt foods? Hi there, my canzo lovers. Benzopyrene and dibenzanthracene are the most...
And benzopyrene is the most potent carcinogen amongst the polyaromatic hydrocarbons. Benzopyrene is the most potent. So most of our cancer problems that we have is coming as a result of the benzopyrene.
The researchers sought to identify the presence of these substances in street-vended fried rice and chicken.
The fufu, it was found in the soup. The soup because we use the dry fish, what's it called? So smoked fish. In the smoking of the fish, the processes, there is burning, introduction of these pyrines. As they begin to char, they get pyrolyzed and they form pyrene. Benzo-A-pyrene as well as its precursor, the pyrene. And some of the rice, as they stir fry, you see that there's some burning processes that goes on. So all those things contributed to the presence of pyrenes in the food that we examined.
For benzopyrene and dibenzanthracene, the recommendation is to prepare food on meat pasture.
The Ghana Water Company is asking residents of the central region to help apprehend thieves that steal the company's installed equipment. According to the company, the water meters, meter valves and slabs that support the supply of water to the various parts of the region are consistently being stolen, making the operations of the company very difficult. When one of the thieves was apprehended and arraigned. Richard Kojonyako has more in this report.
People steal our water meters, they steal the metal slabs on some of our valve chambers. On the 6th of March, that's the Independence Day, we got information that a gentleman called Samuel Mensah, fortunately for us, the people within the community saw him and arrested him, and they informed us about what had happened. So quickly, our men went there.
Communications manager of the Ghana Water Company, Nana Yauberma Banie, explaining how thieves have been stealing installed equipment belonging to the Ghana Water Company. He explains how these thefts of the installations would affect the work of the company and further hurt the water flow of residents.
In fact, when you talk of valve chambers, these are, if we want to maybe divert water to a particular location, we will throttle the valve the way we deem fit. So these valves have chambers and there are slabs. Most of them are metal slabs. So this gentleman demonstrated to them. They brought him to the police station. That was on Sunday.
In court on Tuesday, the accused failed to show up.
So the gentleman was supposed to appear before court this morning. We've been here for more than 1 hour. The gentleman, or even more than 2 hours or so, the gentleman is no witty. So that we ensure that at the next adjourned case, the gentleman is produced before court.
The Ghana Water Company is counting on residents to help the company by arresting such persons that tamper with their installations. Reporting for JoyNews, Richard.
Poised to pursue an agenda to eliminate the phenomenon of persons with disabilities surviving on arms. District Chief Executive Edmond Kufuor explains that both personal and public resources will be mobilized to achieve the agenda. He's speaking to Kwame Asante on the sidelines of the distribution of startup kits to some 24 PWDs.
4 persons with disability were selected across the district after careful auditing of their living conditions. Some of the beneficiaries to access health care, pay school fees, and set up businesses. The North Dine District Chief Executive, Edmond Kufuor, detailed that the distribution is the 5th since 2017 and the first batch out of 4 in 2022. He justified a decision to...
And so Nana Kufuor also, from that same tradition, came and then increased the percentage to common fund from 2% to 3%. And so we were looking at this. Are we going to continue to be doing cash donation to these people? What will it do? And therefore we changed that status quo, and then we decided that there's a need for us to be giving them items. So we look at peculiarities, we look at the business ventures that these are unfortunate, the less privileged, how they do. And so if somebody, for example, can sell, let's say, can have cold store, can't you support in a way that the person can have a deep freezer and then do that? In the past, we have even distributed, what's the name, a tricycle, we have distributed corn miller, and so many other things. Some have received even a container to do their businesses.
He indicated that the assembly aims at eradicating PWDs from the streets in the North Dine district.
The idea actually is LED, local economic development. We want to empower them. I'm urging my disabled that they should get out of the street, become buoyant. They can do something. So if you spend 1,500, 2,000 on you for you to start a business, 3,000 on you, you can do it. All we have to do is to change the psyche. And so that is the level we are taking them from. we are not only providing them these items, I'm also doing sensitization, changing their psyche, making sure that psychologically they find fit. We are integrating them into the community to quote-unquote soft loan. And this one, don't forget, they are not paying. This one is free. Government is giving it to you freely. The only caveat is that make use of it, and then others will also benefit. Why not? And I believe that, seriously speaking, for the past 5 years, we have affected a lot of lives, and people are happy about it.
Fred Kwame Asante, JoyNews, and Fuega.
And that's it for the AM News. I'm Apisa.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to dig into the papers right here and also let you know what has been happening across the world. Joining us for that, Dr. Kwame Asante. He joins the conversation, political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, a very good morning to you. Thank you for staying. I see that smile creeping on your face. Let's start with an interesting development, Doc. Now, we've heard the ranking member of Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, expressing worry over the demolition of the Bulgarian embassy in Accra. Some, what do you even call them, land guards, some security personnel have been supposedly pointed at being implicit, or complicit, I should say, in all of this. I don't know whether you've seen that story and what your immediate reaction is. The photos that we've seen are very troubling, to say the least. And of course, coming from the international political point, or a consul comes into question, that is foreign land. And this is like an act of war. Or am I missing something?
It's Ben, it's very unfortunate. Listening to your network this morning, I felt very sorry. One, it appears to me that due diligence was not done before you go into demolition. When you have done the due diligence. Very, very unfortunate. If you look at in terms of international relations, very unfortunate. What type of relationship do you want to build between Ghana and Bulgaria? Right. That their facility, which is considered as your land here, is being destroyed and all that. It's very unfortunate. But you see, I don't want to believe that the government, is complicit in that. Government, I don't think has a hand in that. And I am sure government will be able to rise up to that, situation. It is also unfortunate that we are hearing issues of land guards in this matter. Do we still have them in this country?
That is the question, because they are supposed to be illegal. Their activities are not even legitimate, so to speak.
Yes, they don't need to exist in this country. We have prescribed the activities by law. So why are they being mentioned here? And what is the police doing about this? I know that the government of this country will take up bold steps to deal with it. It has cost the people of Bulgaria, so that we continue on a good, tangent. I am hopeful that this will be done with dispatch, so that we don't incur the wrath of other members of the international community with regard to this issue. It's very unfortunate. And then the police will also handle the so-called land guards and then deal with them ruthlessly. Because today there is a law which says that land guards should not exist in this country. So if we have semblance of them in this country, then they must be rooted out of this country.
And while I agree with you, and you spoke about the fact that no state would want to do something of this nature. But in the end, when some of these things happen, it is always the state that has to, or the government that has to bear the brunt of whatever has happened, whether it is the failure of the Lands Commission or whichever entity, it is government that bears the brunt of it. You now have to engage in diplomacy to deal with the situation. So what remedial measures do you feel should be adopted? You remember in 2020, we had the issue of the Nigerian embassy and its facility and all of that. If you recall, that too came into question. So in a short span of years, we've had 2 incidents with 2, foreign missions, the Nigerian High Commission and then the Bulgarian embassy.
That you saw how government dealt with the first one. I'm sure it's the same spirit that government is going to work with this one, so that institutions which are working on behalf of the state will not create unnecessary problem for government to bear. It is unfortunate. Government sitting somewhere dealing with its own matter, and the time you realize an institution, a body that is supposed to do things on behalf of government, create problem for government. It's unfortunate. Lands Commission must up their game and must be able to set up properly and look at these things carefully before they undertake such action. It is very unfortunate that this action will be taken and later they come back to say, we are sorry. We are sorry doesn't solve.
Look, right before I get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper, Doc, I just want to find out very quickly from you. I'm sure you follow the sequence of the carnage on our roads and what has been happening. 469 deaths within January and February. We're also seeing, just in a span of days, 17 people losing their lives, accidents back to back, and a gas explosion, or not an explosion, so to speak, but a gas tanker, catching fire and all of that, and people going round it to take photos, forgetting what had happened in Apiace. When you look at all of these happenings and the fact that though the numbers in terms of deaths and accidents are slightly lower,
Ben, it's very, 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 very unfortunate. Even when you lose one person, it's bad enough to talk about it. We want our people alive so that they can help build Mother Ghana.
Right.
My worry is that, look, when we want to deal with this thing, we blame it on drivers and all that. It is true that they also contribute to the problem we have on our hands. Careless driving, some without license,
inattentiveness,
not adhering to the rules of the game with regard to driving and all that. But there is something that government must also shoulder. What is it? We pay street lights. This is where traffic do not work. It doesn't work. You have to use your own calculation to drive through. Can you imagine this? Who is taking responsibility for this?
Doc, what did you say you were? Did you say the Holy Spirit?
Breaking down of what? Traffic facilities. Yes, when you're driving from Electoral Commission towards the Holy Spirit Cathedral, that traffic light, the one that turns to City Campus, Tigo, doesn't work. You need to use your own imagination to drive through. Can you imagine that? I mean, this can be fatal one day, and nobody is trying to take responsibility and doing. Meanwhile, we have authorities who are responsible for this. What are they doing? So, box up with, attitude of drivers, and then even design of the roads. Some places you realize that the design of the road contributes immensely towards accident. We have not looked at all these things in totality. If we want to deal with this, we must, make sure that we don't turn ostrich in this direction, and that we deal with these things head on. Otherwise, all the time we'll come here, come and complain, and then go to sleep. The next day we'll have accidents on our hands. Let us remember that we need to build this country,
right? And
that we can't afford to lose them. It creates a very bad image for this country. Some people have been given responsibility to take up on these matters must be up and do it. Those who can do work, because this government doesn't need to descend and come down to instruct people to do their work. Well,
thank you.
Once you are paid, you must be.
Thank you so much, Doc. And maybe just a quick addition to what you've said, about 50% of the traffic lights not working, at least when it comes to the Greater Accra Region. That is a statistic from the National Road Safety Authority, and something really that we ought to digest. But it's interesting, and I think it's a good opportunity to put this out there. Yesterday, I was interacting with Chief Inspector Joba of the MTTD. And one of the things he told me was that, look, how about we've done this with our street lights, some of them. How about we have traffic lights that use solar? Do you get it? So they don't depend on electricity, because sometimes it is owing to power outages and so many other dynamics. So over to you, NRSA, urban roads and all of that, those involved to ensure that maybe our street lights can be on most of the time. But let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's dive in, Doc. Printing textbooks locally, patriotic gesture. That's according to printers, and members of the Ghana Printers and Paper Converters Association have said the decision of the government to cede the entire printing of textbooks locally is a patriotic gesture which must be implemented to the letter. Quick one to run by you. The reality, Doc, and I've published books, my own books. When you self-publish, you know what it's like. When you publish in Ghana, oftentimes, depending on where you're going and what you're looking at, the cost would be higher than if you published in, and I don't want to mention countries' names, but let's say in the East, in Asia, or maybe in some even Western countries, and brought them back to Ghana. And the dynamics are different. There are so many factors involved. And I know many people, I have friends who are doing same. I have not done so. Both times I've published my own book. Government may afford to do this, but I am feeling that generally when we look at the landscape, we should be doing more so that more and more people can publish right here in Ghana. What is your take on that?
It's a difficult business. It is a difficult business because cost of printing is, and sometimes it takes you out of business. What is more is that when you get these books printed, then people find other means of getting them through soft copies and all that. And the state is doing its best to protect some of these things, but we will still have problems. So it compounds the problem and make it unattractive to people to go into publication. Let us remember that no books and whatnot, you need them. They are the body of knowledge that you need to be able to put together and to address your problems. So once we begin to have such difficulties, then it's a problem. We need to be sober on this, reflect on this, and help to build this thing once and for all. Materials for printing, we need to work at it so that the prices go down. And then publishers also would, from that point, give us realistic prices. Otherwise, we'll continue to have this business. And at the end of the day, you are likely not to have books from Ghanaian publishers, but outside. And this worry it affects our income generation activities within the country, where we create the jobs here and go and give it to other countries, other people. We can save this situation and create jobs for our people here. We need to be up in this matter and up our game in this regard.
Well, moving on from there, there's also the story, coups cannot address challenges. President reiterates story. President has stated that coups have never been and will never be the solution to Africa's political, economic, and security challenges. He indicated that the reappearance of coups in Africa in all their forms and manifestations must be condemned by all, since they undermined the continent's collective bid to rid itself of the menace of instability and unconstitutional changes in government. He was of the strong view that the condemnation of coups without corresponding action would do very little, and called for stiffer and deterrent measures against the risks of coups, the factors involved. And there's also talk about the fact that those manipulating constitutions, civilian rulers who manipulate constitutions, to get third terms and fourth terms and what have you. And our records are replete with such instances on the continent, should face stiffer penalties. But is this not just more rhetoric? Because the AU Spain have failed woefully in dealing with this situation. Is it stiffer penalties, stiffer deterrence we need? What more do we need?
We need a lot. Ben, we need a lot. Why am I saying this? There are causes, there are things that trigger coup d'etats in the sub-region and in Africa, any part of the world.
Right.
Address governance challenges and defects within governance so that nobody has any feeling of overthrowing a constitutionally elected government. That aside, let us also remember that yes, when coup happens, what next? Coups do not produce the right environment for economy to grow. So for me, there is nothing like canvassing for coups with the hope that they will improve the economy. They will not. We have seen it in this country. 1960 people into believing that They have the magic wand to turn things round. But at the end of the day,
while I agree with you, Doc, while I agree with you completely, some would also, and this is so we can have a debate, some would also point to the regime of Ignatius Kutu Echampo and tell you, look, we fared pretty well. We said Yentia, the Bretton Woods institutions exited Ghana. Before long, we were doing well. I mean, we shored up. Those were the times of Dr. A.O. Abudu. They held the plenteous harvests and all of that. We were pretty well to do. Some point to that and say, not to justify a coup, but say that it's not all bad when it comes to military regimes. What's your reaction? Did you get that, Doc? Asante is a bit... Doc, are you with us? Just say hello if you can hear me.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you get the question?
The last bit, I missed it. If you can,
so
give it to me again.
Basically saying,
fine.
Not in support of military regimes, but some have said that sometimes we over-denigrate military regimes, and they point to the regime of Ignatius Kutu Echampo, Operation Feed Yourself, Yentia, and other policies that have apparently worked very well for us, economically and beyond. And they say that sometimes we overdo it when we criticize the military regimes. Your take?
Yeah, I disagree. And I disagree vehemently. Soldiers cannot do anything for us in terms of civilian regime. When you talk about the issue of Echampo and his performance, it's a very controversial one because Buzia, all the things that you see, a number of them that were credited to Echampo were not his own work. They were work that were done by Buzia, but only bear fruit during Echampo regime. That is a fact which must be recognized. And we want to also say that during Echampo's own time, there were a lot of abuses. Is that what we want? A lot of, bad governance, where a lot of things went wrong. Is that what we want? Look, for me, a moribund democracy is far better than the so-called military regime that delivered the so-called public good. I disagree vehemently. What we need is that if you have a democracy and there are problems, yes, you look at the democratic process, use them to fight the democracy, to strengthen its frontiers, but than to resort to, calling for coups that at the end of the day, we are going to regret. Because we have seen you find it difficult to survive within that country. I have lived it in 1979, from 1979 to date. So I speak with authority that, and as a student of military politics, I know what I mean. So look, democracy, I know, has its own challenges, but we can do that when we are conscious and we are prepared to deal with the problems that come with democracy head on. We have seen reversals within certain parts of the world, such as Latin America and all that. And those who serve as what pointers for us in order to deal with problems of democracy than the blanket call for coups as a panacea, make it work and then deliver the public goods so that at the end of the day, it brings smiles on the faces of all people in this country.
Quick one as we wrap up on the daily graphic newspaper and quickly blaze through the others. I'll seek review. Justice Abdullahi, you remember he took this matter to court that has now brought the Apex Court to that ruling 7-0 concerning quorums, concerning deputy speakers voting and all of that. What is your quick take if you've taken a look at the Supreme Court's ruling and reasoning? And what do you make of it, the sort of responses that have come from the different sides of the political spectrum?
Yes, when you look at the ruling, I said it on this platform that if we want to deal with the problem that confront Parliament today, then somebody must trigger that process to go to the court and then, ask for an interpretation of the law. The Supreme Court had delivered on that. For me, it is the best way to go. If you have other additions, we can add. But some people are speaking from the point of view that, look, the Supreme Court cannot interfere in the work of Parliament. I beg to differ. Because, you see, in a democracy, institutions are there, and each one is tasked with a responsibility. If you look at when you have conflict between any of the arms of government, it is the judiciary that comes in. The issue of separation of powers, you cannot conclude anywhere, not even mighty America, who started this concept, right? It's a meaningful definition of separation of powers ends with checks and balances, so that yes, the bulk of the function of parliament is given to them to perform, but slices of such functions are given to other departments of state to perform, i.e. the Supreme Court or the judiciary for that matter. So if the judiciary comes in to interpret, then we should not see it as prying into the area of what. I also have a little problem with the ruling. With respect, my problem is that, yes, are we saying that somebody can preside and at the same time, cast his vote? Then the conversation could also be extended to the issue of why can't you also allow them to also be part of the debate? Then you realize that it becomes a very difficult and a very complex matter. I think that the review, if it qualified, because let us remember that there are grounds at it and then consider it. But for me, it's a good step we can build on, and that mischief that we have in Parliament will be dealt with once again. But let us be sober, reflect on all the dissent that we have had with regard to this issue, and then at the end of the day, something meaningful will come and help the work of Parliament so that it brings smile to all of us. We need the judiciary, and we need the
right.
As well as what.
Okay. Let's look at the Ghanaian Times. Sure. I was losing you briefly, but thank you, Doc. Let's move on to the next batch of stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Make use of RTI. Nkrumah tells academia and the media, and I followed this interesting development. Of course, we know of some of the challenges that have been faced by those who have tried with it, and I agree with him. We ought to do more with it. It's just the frustration about even charges and all of that when you're seeking information that make it a bit convoluted, cumbersome. But at least I feel it's a justified call. There's also this one. Two quick stories I want you to address, Doc. Open Ghana's land borders. Minority urges government. And in fact, some people have been talking about the fact that even the COVID-19 restrictions ought to be made more lax. We've had discussions yesterday. Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaje, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, said, in fact, there were plans in the works. A committee was meeting and working on that. But what is your very quick reaction to this? Time for us to open our land borders. There are economic consequences of it. It's long spanning, and already we are facing an economic crunch. So what's your quick reaction?
These decisions are taken on sober reflection. And we are guided by a whole lot of factors. The security of this country will be the right people to look at this, a breather. That's normal with normal human life. But all that we need to do is that those who are in charge of the apparatus, the security apparatus of this state, should be able to look at it critically and consider the current situation we have our hands, i.e. the economic pressures and all that, and see whether we are in the rightful period of time for the borders to be open. It shouldn't be just an ordinary decision, which I know government is not oblivious of that fact. No, a careful consideration will be done, and whatever the security situation, they will brief the president, and if the need be for the borders to be open, it will be open. Let us not play politics with it. These things are carefully thought out programs, and that if you want to take a second look to arrive at a second decision, then the same process must be followed, so that at the end of the day, we all get to our destination.
On page 3, we also, or if they proceed with treason felony, and Justice Remsai, the lead counsel, has called for prosecution, to come to a halt, so to speak, because there's an absence of summary evidence. In fact, Bakavoma himself has said that, let's do this. Let's go to court. Let's proceed with this matter. And some have said that the state does not have what it takes to actually charge him for treason felony. Even when it comes to murder, serious crimes in the state, you need to prove, will tell you, it's going to be a very tricky affair for the state, owing to the fact that he just put this on social media. The evidence that he would have been able to, execute something like this is rather far-fetched. But he's been at the district court level for over a month now, which means he's not been granted bail. Some feel this is the state abusing the powers that it wields, especially the executive.
And so the legal nuances, I will be very much bankrupt of that. So let's leave it with the lawyers who have what it takes to assess the situation and educate us. Let us remember that this type of exercise go a long way to inform, educate, and then give our people the hope to support democracy at all times. So I will defer this thing to the lawyers so that they can give a detailed analysis so that we all learn and follow.
When you look at the final newspaper, vibrant youth wings are MPP's pillars, but a country where they feel at the grassroots level things are not going well. We've had these discussions week after week, and it appears each week brings new dynamics in terms of infighting within the NPP at the grassroots level, or what in the NDC you would call the branch level. Is the party failing to nip this in the bud since it keeps coming up, Doc? And what could be the impact?
Yeah, from what we are seeing, it's appeared to me that these are the things that incur the wrath of followers of Polka Party, and they vent out their grievances in voting in a certain particular direction. I am surprised that the party up to now seems not to be cared about what is going on. Now you are seeing violence, Yendi. It's a sorry story, but the party, if they really want to up their game, they must bring in sanctions immediately and stem the tide. Let us remember that all these so that it can be thrown to the public when we are coming forward elections. And the MPP must be very, very careful about this. And then another problem associated with this is that when you continue on this tangent, that you see violence, you see people who are not satisfied with the electoral processes, you create all manner of problems that some of them can lead to skirt and blood voting. You can also have independent candidates emerging, especially in strongholds or places where you have a slim majority, you are likely to lose them. So it should be a wake-up call for the party to right now act very fast if they want to break the heat. Otherwise, I'm afraid they are going to have problems during the campaign.
Let's do Republic Press. There's no constituency Kufuor hasn't touched with development. That's according to Samira Baumia. There's no constituency Kufuor hasn't touched with development. The second lady saying that. There's also Painter jailed 20 years for defiling, impregnating girlfriend's 13-year-old daughter. But there's this interesting one. We're back where we have the ECG's MD in the picture again, Doc. ECG workers demand removal of MD. In the midst of that, there's also this interesting bit. The ECG has been out there, and it's interesting. The Ministry of Finance itself owes ECG, about the KIA, for example, millions of cedis. Your quick reaction to the bit about the ECG boss and the fire once more, and the fact that so many state institutions owe the ECG. We know about the problems the ECG faces. Sometimes it's not even able to execute certain things, expand and all of that on the back of government, the state, owing another state entity. How do we get ourselves out of this?
If you look at the first question and the second one you are posed to me, it all boils to the fact that there are problems with management. It's clear. Because why do you say they are not ready to pay? Then what are you doing? All right. Imagine the company belonged to you. Would you have acted the same way? Sometimes we treat state institutions with lip service. And that is the result of some of the things we are seeing. We need people who are bold, who are courageous, and who have the sense of responsibility of, working for their daily bread. That's all. So if you are a leader and you cannot provide that service, then you are likely to be confronted with with rank and file about your work. It's a problem, and that the board must be able to sit and look at all these things and see how best they can deal with it. But for me, the ECG going out to disconnect people, I have no problem with that. If you owe, you need to pay, and that you can now want to start, strengthening the frontiers of their work and make sure that they get the right revenue. It is true that they have difficulties and all that, but you can also owe them. Where are they going to get resources to run the organization?
Right.
We owe them so much. The money that were earmarked for the payment of all these bills, where have they gone to? We need to investigate this and then make sure that we ensure proper, management of our resources. Governance is nothing but the use of what? Resources to make life better. So if you can make better use of resources, I'm afraid you are not governing. You are doing something else.
Let's look at, and this is how we're going to wrap the conversation, Doc. Business and Financial Times, on page 3, it says cedi to fall 20% over next 12 months. 20%. Already we're seeing what is happening against the American dollar, the greenback. Now that's according to RMB Markets, the corporate and investment division of First Rand Bank. I wouldn't have you, there's not enough time to respond to that, but I want you to rather, Doc, in concluding, to react to what has been happening in Boku. Boku has been a long-standing problem, chieftaincy land problem that we've had in this country. It has reared its ugly head again. In some 30 seconds, what is your quick reaction, and why does it keep coming up?
You see, all the time when issues like this happen, we are quick to set committees or commissions to investigate. But what do we do with the report?
Right.
We allow them to sit or lie on decks and all that. Implementation of these things to the letter has created all manner of problems for us, and the state has not learned from this. It is unfortunate. If we really want to deal with these problems which affect our political system, we need to be quick and fast on these things and then respond to the needs of the people. Otherwise, unfortunately, we are likely to have a ritual of all these things, which in actual fact shouldn't be the case. What are we doing to ourselves? We need to liberate our people through careful solution so that they can also move on and do their businesses in time.
Doc, nagode, Mauna Yao, Nyamisha Webre, and have a good day.
I'm most grateful.
That's how we wrap up on the news review. Coming up next, sports, and my very own Manchester United capitulated last night to Atletico Madrid, if you want to sound Castilian, losing by a 1-0. They were pipped, but honestly, Manchester United did not deserve to progress. But who am I? Muftau Nabila Abdullahi has the details up next in sports. Stay.
We are at the Monshuda Biola Stadium. We are all ready. Look how beautiful the pitch is. Look how beautiful the stadium is. We are all ready. But some people are still looking for a venue. Some people are under confusion. You know who I'm talking about. We are 360, baby. Hallelujah.
And the Ghana versus Nigeria match. It has been spiced up by off-the-field conversations as we build up to that all-important World Cup qualifier on March 25. Questions have surrounded Ghana's readiness to host the first leg of that encounter, as CAF officials have inspected the Baba Yara Sports Stadium and the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. On Sunday, there were a team at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium to inspect the facility to consider its readiness for the tie. The first choice of venue, according to the Ghana Football Association, which is noted by CAF and FIFA, is the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. However, that facility appears to be unready as its current state is not fit for purpose. Well, Director General of the National Sports Authority, Bawa Majid, he was on PM Express on Tuesday night, and he says that the National Sports Authority do not have the finances to keep all stadia in good shape.
I think it's a combination of resources, maintenance culture, because if the facility...
But that's an indictment on the NSA.
To some extent, not only NSA. And this
well, who else? Who else?
You see, what people don't avert their mind into, we are the managers of the facilities. We know that we need ABC resources to be able to keep the facility in a standard that football and football lovers want. But somewhere 2019, 2020, we said that, okay, in other cities, For example, I'm not underrating any club, but assuming Legon City and Accra Lions, for example, are playing, the spectators don't come. But we spend almost 15,000 Ghana cedis to maintain the pitch and
for one game.
For one game. This thing, when you ask the club to assist, they don't. They cry. They don't have money. We want, okay, so why don't you pay for the services? Then we use whatever we are receiving from you to be able to keep the place for you. They said no, they cry. In fact,
so they play there for free?
They play for free. They play for free. We get, sometimes at the end of the match, we have only 200 Ghana cedis. Yes.
Accra Sports Stadium.
200 Ghana cedis. That would be our process.
After you spend 15,000.
After you spend 15,000 to prepare the pitch for the game, then at the end of the game, all the deductions, because it's our responsibility to make sure that we invite security, we invite the paramedics, and all the people that will make the place safer for the game. A sharing ratio is there. And what comes to NSA, sometimes 50 cities. I remember we play a game in Sinyane, only 50 Ghana cities that came to NSA. So that is the challenge.
Now, let's hear from former communications director of the Ghana Football Association, Ibrahim Sani Dara. He says that the Confederation of African Football wants to ensure that the pitches where players play their football are in good shape. He says that the new leadership of CAF insists that the brand African football must be sold to the world, as the recent African Cup of Nations was viewed across 152 countries.
Chad will be playing Gambia. Chad is playing the match at the Japoma Stadium that I was in charge of during the AFCON. So they have to move home from Chad to play their home matches in Cameroon. And then Gambia administration has made it a point that we need to crack down on bad pitches across the continent. We need to improve the standards of stadiums, particularly pitches. And President Patrice Motsepe has been saying pitches because the pitch, apart from the other facilities, are important. But the pitches are what people see on their eyes. And when people see these games, these days, African football, during the AFCON was telecast around 150 countries across the world. And if you have dodgy pitches, potato farm looking like pitches, it sends the bad image of African football. So it's about time that not only Ghana, but countries across Africa realize that there's a new wind of change blowing, and that is to expect that there are some level of quality of pitches. Very, very expensive footballers, players some worth over $100 million, and they would come and play on potato pitches, and you have, because of one bad pitch in somewhere bang in the middle of Africa, you have a player that's worth maybe $150 million, $100 million getting injured on such a pitch. So it doesn't bode well for African football. European teams are edgy when they hear that their players are going to play in Africa. Therefore, as organizers of the game, as that the pitch is good, the dressing rooms are good, the other facilities for broadcasters and the rest are good, so we can showcase ourselves. If we want to get to the standards that we consistently say African football must reach, we have to project ourselves well. If we have the top stars and expose them to injuries that they can avoid, why do you want Europe to respect us? So this is the new era.
And where would the game be happening? Is it the Baba Yara Sports Stadium or the Cape Coast Sports Stadium? Well, per our understanding, the Cape Coast Sports Stadium is expected to be ready within the next 9 days. So as at Monday, they are set 9 days. So as we speak, it's left with 7 days. And per the report that sources have indicated to us, Baba Yara Sports Stadium is in an excellent state to host the game, whilst he believes that the Cape Coast Sports Stadium would also be ready before the key game on March 25. However, it is dependent on FIFA to determine whether the game will be played at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium or the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. Questions have surrounded the Bawayara Sports Stadium because it was not submitted for inspection. But to FIFA, the GFA wrote to CAF that it is only right that Ivan also inspect the Bawayara Sports Stadium to see if it is fit for purpose. And that is why the Bawayara Sports Stadium was inspected. But we cannot tell whether it will be in Bawayara or Cape Coast. We await the results within the next 48 hours, title rather. And my colleague, Asara Bediakon, has the rest of the story.
Patrick Alote has been given an opportunity to reclaim the WBO Africa Super Welterweight title, but standing in between him and glory is Tanzanian boxer Hamisi Maya, the 31-year-old Ghanaian boxer who has been training in earnest for the man, the Lion Heart.
I know he's a very good boxer and he has prepared well for this bout. I've also prepared very well for this bout, and I think that night will be a very fantastic night for both of we the boxers and also the undercards also as well. I don't have much to say, but to plead on the whole Ghana boxing fans that they have been giving me since day one, and because of that, I would like to beg them to come in the Anames on 26 December to come and support Patrick Alote. I'm still the Patrick Alote.
Bruce Kujo is expecting Patrick Alote to live up to expectations.
We have been in the boxing fraternity for some time now, and we have done the best that we can to make sure that we push Ghana to the world stage. As he rightly said again, with regards to Patrick Alote and other boxers that we had in our folds on the journey that we commenced. 26th of this very month, we'll be staging another spectacular bout, which will be featuring Alote, Patrick Alote, as well as Emmanuel Kwe, and other supporting bouts, which of course holding here in Kabe, here in Idoit Event Center.
Former GBA president and current WBO Africa representative Samuel Kaptan has backed Alote to beat Hamisi Maya.
I think this is going to be another cracker for Patrick Alote title, so that will be a stepping stone, as our honorable said, to the world title. And this time we all should support Kabik promotion, support Patrick Alote, the trainer. Each one win the golden freeze, so that he will bring glory to Ghana. To me personally, I don't think Patrick Alote is finished, because I've been hearing from quarters, some places that, oh, Patrick Alote is finished, Kabik should discard him and blah, blah, blah. No, he still got the venom in him. And I'll get old with the tail, the stink. You know, as the scorpion is old, still he's got the venom.
And we're live with the big stories for today. We're going to be getting back to what exactly economic times. We'll also discuss the e-levy bill. Will it ever be passed into law? Big question. And the president also wants, the chairperson of ECOWAS, Nana Kufuor, also wants stronger African Union sanctions on civilians who manipulate their constitutions, to extend this morning right here as we discourse on the big stories. Our guests, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekbo, he's Member of Parliament for South Dai. We also have Dr. Kingsley Nyako, Member of Parliament for Kwa Daso constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana 4, thank you for making us your show of choice. But let me say good morning to our guests.
Good morning.
Roxanne.
Good morning. Customary, I have to do that.
I've been doing this with you, so I'll start with you on this discourse, Doc. How is Kwa Daso? And when I ask how is Kwa Daso, you've been working there over this, 8th Parliament. What have you been doing? Just very briefly. And what is the state of the economy? I want to link it to what Mr. President said.
Kwa Daso, people and your good selves, Roxanne, my very good friend in the house, You know, Kwadaso is one of the traditional constituencies in the Ashanti region. And Kwadaso constituency always gives the MPP a chunk of the votes. In the 2020 votes, about 62,000 of the votes. So I think that was the highest in the country or so. So, and the president and the government have done the constituents good in terms of infrastructural projects and some of the in the parliament also. I mean, we are doing what we can do, doing our best. First timer over there. I think that we're not done badly, and some of my colleague MPs who attest give a voice, a very good voice to the constituents. I mean, he will attest to that. I think I've been able to make close to 10 statements within this time, take part in debates and discussions and all that. So far so good, and I'm proud of my constituents, the opportunity they've given to me. I'm grateful to them. And it's challenged in a way, and as a result of conditions that are obvious to us. In fact, before 2020, the economy was doing well. GDP growth had moved from 3.4% in 2016 to 6.5% in 2019. And because of COVID, I mean, it dipped to 0.4%, you know what I mean? And before 2016, we saw GDP growth in 2014 of 2.9%, 2015, 2.1%.
So was it COVID that, you know, basically started impacting the economy and leading? They say it's not just COVID, there are other factors, but by and large, a lot of you hinge towards or lean towards COVID. But we know that even prior to COVID, you were facing some economic challenges in different parts of the economy.
Yesterday I was on Metro and I tried to analyze, because I felt that the diagnosis of the economy was not right. I mean, the economy has been facing difficulties for a very long time. But what I'm saying is that there had been gains, improvements.
Right.
If we are factual to issues, we went to IMF in 2014-15, and we got about $914 million and all that. Why did we go to IMF? Because the economy was not doing well. We've gone to the capital markets to get some Europe over the years has not been structurally robust and strong. We are overly dependent on excessive imports. We export less in terms of volumes. We don't even add
that has
value.
been a rhetoric that we've sung throughout the fourth parliament. NDC and can overlook that because we've not done much even within this tenure in terms of dealing with those problems.
But I'm saying that there has been progress. For example, the 1D, 1F is progressive. It's progressive because as we speak.
Can you do this? And I like these watching us might be reflecting on. If I asked you now to mention 10 actively working 1D, 1F factories across the country, you know, that are actively working.
I think because that's not part of the topic, so I don't think I'll be able to.
But I feel justifiably that these should be at your fingertips when you're talking about these initiatives.
Because I put a question before the minister for jobs of about 150 direct and indirect have been created. One is sitting in my constituency. Kasaprekun is sitting in my constituency. You go to a Kufuor juice, we know it's working. Kasaprekun is also working. I mean, there are a couple of them. I mean, if you the co-farms, it has been revived recently. I'm sure you're aware.
No, I'm aware of that. But I mean, they've really suffered. And even we're talking about the poultry industry and how even feed and all of that. It's a whole complicated situation.
No, bottom line is that it used to be struggling, but it has been revived and revamped. It is able to give, let's say, 100 jobs. Okay, it is progress as compared to when it was not existing. And some of the products that are being churned out by them, I mean, helps us in terms of importing more, that to burden our currency and all that. So as much as we are going through problems, I'm saying that interventions by this government are also helping.
Roxanne on this bit. But one thing I would just say, in addition, Dr. Nyako, even as we talk about these things, and in this context, we're bleeding. One of the reasons we're bleeding a lot now, and fuel prices are ticking up practically every few days. Whatever, crude, we have to take it out of the country, refine, bring it back into the country. It's basically like importing, crude. When we have crude,
we do import,
and we are bleeding dollars, because even our production of crude is on the minimal end compared to our consumption of petroleum products. So that is something that definitely we should be looking at, especially as the dollar to CD ratio right now is performing a dance that we've never seen.
You see, I have to trade them in the context and also look at indicators. I agree with you that we need to do more to revive and revamp TOR, at least so that we can refine crude here. We import, I think, about 80,000 I think $1 billion or so, if my memory serves me right. And for me, we can do much more about that. But when it comes to prices going up, my brother.
In Ukraine, we were seeing this happening already, even before Russia invaded.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that within this period, you go to Tunisia, you go to Burundi, you go to South Africa, you go to Nigeria, you go to Tanzania. I can give you an example here, where prices of fuel have gone up.
Let's look at the West African sub-region. We have one of the most expensive when it comes to West Africa.
Yeah.
And we're producing crude.
There
are countries that are not even producing crude. But have figures lower than ours. How does that make it?
Demolition of fuel prices. There's no one indicator. Myriad of indicators that go into it.
Okay.
So you see, what I want to say is that we don't have to create an impression. And if you look from 2020 till now, you see that the price for fuel, petrol, diesel, gas, fluctuates. Okay, it goes up, it goes down. But it has gone up a bit because of what is happening in Russia and Ukraine. And I suspect that if nothing is done to avert what is happening in Russia and Ukraine, the prices, will go up. What government has to do is to try and come up with some intervention in terms of, if possible, subsidy to a peculiar situation in Ghana. Ghana is not an outlier case.
Okay,
all
right.
It affects almost all economies.
The bit about subsidies, though, not many people in your administration subscribe to that. And we all know the subsidies you subsidize, but in the end, the pain will come back to the same people who are subsidizing.
In challenging situations, at least we can do something as a short-gap measure to soothe the pain of the citizens.
Very soon, we're told crude prices or prices at the pumps will hit 11 cedis per litre. I am paying close to 9 cedis. Kufuor, he says, he points to the root causes, though in that clip you wouldn't hear the root causes he's referring to of the economic slump. He makes mention of the fact that his administration inherited an economy on the brink of collapse, on the very precipice. He talks about the financial and banking system that was cleaned up, and he talks about hope, economic standing as a country. The president admits that we are in dire straits.
Now, it's shocking to hear the president speak in terms that he did. Now,
what exactly is shocking about it?
What is shocking is for a president to say that in 2017, the growth that we experienced as an economy, the over 8% growth in the economy, was due to his efforts. It was based upon the good returns from 2015, 2016 that yielded the upsurge in the growth in the economy that we saw in 2017. Now, and Dr. Nyako says he's an academic. We should situate things in context. How does an academic say that? An economy, how is that? He recited the figures. Right from 2017, everything has been in a decline to a 0.4 last year. From a high of 8.
Last year was 4%. You are referring to 2020. Last year was 4%.
From a high of 8 point something to a 0.4 in 2020. How is that economy in buoyancy?
So you're talking
2017.
Right.
When they took over and the gains were better from 2015 and 2016 and they yielded results in 2017, everything has been in decline ever since. It should point to me where there's an upset. There's none.
But you know.
Two.
Okay,
No, there's no upset. Two. Because you are citing COVID for everything. Two. In terms of infrastructure, they've completed.
I'll give you 5.
Please.
I'll give you 5.
In addition
Doc,
to the existing...
Hold on for me, Roxanne. Yes. Doc, I just want you to do this, especially as this is your first time here. The interjections are allowed on certain topical bits.
I'm sorry.
You can just note your points. And
I'm sorry, let's move on.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Now, refurbishment of a ward is not a hospital. I just want that to be on record.
Which ward are you speaking of?
They did something in Komfo-Anokye.
Okay.
Yes. That is not... 2. Road infrastructure. Road, because accessibility eases transportation. Ability to transfer goods and services to develop the economy. One single road infrastructure that they initiated and completed in the past 5 years. 1. Let me give you a plethora of some. In 2020, we took 256 million euros to develop what they called Ashaman to Adomi Bridge, a 69 kilometer. We took money from the UK government to develop what they call Puntu-Miocho or Dowenya 3-lane road. 2 years down the line, there's nothing happening. We only cut short to do that. We took money, for instance, to redevelop the Efia Nkwanta Hospital in Sekedi. Nothing has happened on that project. We've taken money to develop what they call the Volivo Bridge, a Japanese fund, as part of the Eastern Corridor Redevelopment Alignment Road. So we borrow so much to undertake specific infrastructures. We have refused to apply the funds to the infrastructure for which we took them. This government said that last year they paid as much as 31 billion on debt servicing alone. And out of that money, out of the 240 billion they have borrowed so far, 31 billion alone is going into debt servicing. Let's talk about education. Apart from the introduction of the free SHS policy, which has run a subsector, 3 years, ever since they introduced a new curriculum, this government has not been able to print textbooks to teach the courses that have been introduced or lessons that have been introduced or topics introduced in tandem with the curriculum. They've given teachers what they call teaching manuals. Teaching manuals who teach students or pupils the history of... It is textbooks that will give them the opportunity to learn the history of people and cultures.
Maybe tied to that, I should just draw your attention to the fact that local printers, Ghana Printers and Paper Converters Association, they are happy about the fact that most textbooks are going to be printed locally, and they call it.
Look, they've been singing.
Just tied to
they've been singing this song for the past months to now select local printers. Local printers. 3 years down the line, they are not done even with selecting who will print the textbooks. So when will the textbooks be printed? My daughter is in P5, and they started learning under the new curriculum in P2. She will leave P6 without a textbook. And that is terrible. Now let's talk about Agric. Today, 49 cities. Today it is 240 cities. Nikoki.
Wait, hold on. You say you bought it for how much last
49
year?
Cities.
49 cities. So let's approximate 50 cities.
Yes, 50 cities.
And now it's over 200 cities.
Yes. In a space of 6 months, the price has jumped for over 500%. Fertilizer, even the government subsidies the minister in parliament. He couldn't even assure the house that will have adequate supply. And so clearly, there's gloom for agriculture this year.
So basically, when you look at the economy, I just want you to wrap up because yes, all these matters.
We had about 15 minutes. No! I time him. No! I can't go. I timed him.
Not 15 minutes.
No.
Your time is not up. I'm not saying your time is up, but I'm saying so you're saying it's all gloom.
It's all gloom.
And the hope that Mr. President speaks of, is it a pipe dream?
No, the man has just told the country that he can't do it alone. He needs help. Didn't you hear him?
But that is exactly what some of you have called for. You remember the Pediase,
Senchi.
Senchi.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you for that correction. The Senchi consensus, if you like.
Exactly. What did they say?
Yes, but your side of the House has been calling.
We have told.
So if Mr. President now concedes that, look,
always assisted this government.
You have.
The NDC, throughout, from 2017 to date, we have assisted this government to pursue its every reasonable economic policy. What the government has done is that when we assist them for instance, how do you say that you need e-levy to reconstruct the economy? How? You have budgeted for 100 billion revenue, including an e-levy of about 7 billion. How are you saying that minus this 7 billion and a projected 93 billion cannot help you to do anything?
But we know. Let's also break it down.
How do we
know that we know that the 30 billion out of that.
I agree.
We have public sector wages, which will take another chunk out of that.
I agree.
Look, realistically, when you look at these deductions, even if you take out 60 billion out of that kitty from money that we don't even have yet through taxes, it's dire.
You see,
I mean, you know that.
No, I agree to all the analysis you are making, but we have asked them a simple question. They refused to answer. In fact, they stampeded the House against answering. And that is for them to account for the COVID-19 funds they received so far. How are you most unwilling to account for monies that have been given to more from the people? Doesn't make sense. I have given you X amount of money so far within the past 2 years. Account for it. And when we are satisfied, we'll give you more. You are saying that no. The means to accounting to Parliament lies with some agency. And therefore, you are most unwilling to account to Parliament directly. What exactly are they applying e-levy to? When you ask them, they say 1 billion will go to contractors. Then 400 million will go to Ustart. Even though they state that it's 1 billion, when you analyze the figure, it's 400 million. Now, they talk of cyber security. So we ask them, which other expenditure lines are you applying the rest of the e-levy on? They are fumbling. Ask them. So the government itself has not been candid, has not been transparent. And let me talk of governance.
And maybe you can wrap on that
yes,
point. So
this is a government that is so top-heavy. A government that has in excess of 2,000 presidential staff. But they intend to recruit more. So the government itself is not exhibiting austere measures in terms of its public expenditure.
Okay.
So clearly, we are in crisis. If I want to top it up all with the loss of jobs during the financial sector cleanup, the loss that has emerged from all the things that they did, its performance is not better than Unibank. Or Heritage Bank, or those chain of banks that they deliberately collapsed, and people lost their jobs, and thousands went home. How is this government citing Kasapreku as its initiative? It baffles me. Kasapreku.
Let me come to you, Doc. So the president talks about hope.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of everything we're seeing. It is a terrible situation, economically speaking. I mean, we can't run away from that. For people like me, I get the picture is not good. The exchange rate is hurting us. If you have to transact in foreign currency, hard currency, it really bites. Fuel prices are not making matters anything better. And to add to that, once fuel prices go up, everything else goes up. You speak to people and they tell you, oh, this thing you bought a few days ago, yes, you bought it at 5 cedis, but now since I go to market and it's 7 cedis, I also have to give it to you at more than 7 cedis and all of that. We are feeling the ripple effects. He says what we are seeing now and what we are likely to see is sheer gloom.
I mean, just engaging in semantics. You know, the bottom line is that he's aware that in 2020, global economy shrank by negative 3.7%. That's a fact. Within our sub-region, the global economy shrank by negative 1.7%. That is a fact. In the midst of that, Ghana was among, in Germany, where I studied some years back, the economy contracted by 5%. Manufacturing went down by 10%. Okay, so what we are saying is that,
but whenever we make these comparisons or draw lines between these and mention countries, like I try to avoid as much as possible citing Western countries as examples, because then again you go to, when you talk about robust economies, for example, you know, Germans and their economy, the stability, what their currency has stood for, and what they even, I mean, probably the biggest in the European Union in terms of economy. So when you talk about these, yesterday I had reason to bring in purchasing power parity and all of that. The dynamics are different.
Let me tell you.
We can't make the comparison.
Let me tell you something. I lived in Germany for 8 years. I have friends there. Some of them have lost their jobs. They call me and they tell me they've lost their jobs.
I'm not saying that did not happen there, but what is the economic shock felt versus what is felt here? What are the social systems, for example, that would cushion a German versus in Ghana?
You see, the impacts might be different in terms of systems, but the reality is that all these countries are going through challenges. That's the point I'm trying to make. Our economy is different from their economy. In advanced countries, when you are going through challenges and the society is not able to support you, you find it difficult to struggle, okay? But in our part of the world, the government might not be able to support you, but you can even fall on families and all that. I mean, to push right now is as a result of a certain turbulence in the world. The COVID-19 pandemic, for me, is the worst, leading to global recession from the Great Depression that happened in the 1930s. And again, he talked about hospitals. He's aware that they secure cabinet approval to build some 5 polyclinics in Greater Accra Region. Cabinet approval, we came and secured loans and we built 5 of them. One is at Sege, one is at Adentan, Botiano, Oduma, and Asherman. Okay, these are there. And the Eurojet project, my brother, you have been around for a long time. The Eurojet projects that Kufuor secured the agreement. For 8 years, they couldn't even finish one of them. Not even one. But the Eurojet project,
the Sogakope Hospital, no. The Sogakope Hospital is part of the environment Europe.
I'm saying that Eurojet project, there's no Sogakope, there were 9. No Sogakope was part of them. I'm telling you that they completed none.
Please, he was very quiet.
We have done Tepa, we completed it. Aferi, it's near completion. 8 years, they couldn't complete a single one. Even the University of Ghana Medical Center, where I taught for 8 years, that day commenced, we came to complete it. We had to secure additional funds to complete it. I'm telling you, that's the fact. Go and check.
Ghana Medical
What did you complete about
complete?
Was what?
Was practically complete.
It was hastily.
In fact, they had to put pressure on you to roll out.
I'm saying that.
Were you in this country?
I was teaching there.
Put it in motion or set it in motion. I even recall the bank hospital somewhere in Canton.
You see that we put pressure on Parliament was holding press conferences
even with equipment.
My brother, I live in that environment. When the construction started, I was teaching at the University of Ghana. By the time they exited, it was not
complete about it. As of the time
I'm saying that it was. You can go and check. It was not complete.
No, but you are making
there were other issues.
He who alleges was proved. What was
what I know about it? What I know, and I was told at that time that they were
told.
Yeah.
By who?
Can you believe this?
By those of my friends who were part of the process.
I thought you said you were there. You saw
yes, but if I were there, that doesn't mean that
you came to dismiss them.
Please.
Even staff that were recruited.
Roxanne.
I'm saying that government had to get money to complete the facility. Go and check. That's a fact. So I'm giving you 5 polyclinics that we have completed. We began and completed. You're also talking about education and all that. I mean, our education system has had issues. But this government has been able to be bold and introduce, free senior high school has given enrollment of over 1 million, about 1.6 now. I know people who, but for fifth in high school, wouldn't have gotten admission to Pokowari, who've got admission to at mother school because of the access. Access has been widened through us, and quality has not been undermined through the introduction of this flagship program. So this are laudable, but you know, GET Fund was in a mess. GET Fund was in a mess. GET Fund was in a mess. Yes, GET Fund was in a mess.
What?
This government in 2017 decided to go for a facility, came to Parliament and got approval to raise $1.5 billion dollars. She was there. And through that, the syndicated banks couldn't raise the needed money. Government introduced what is called Dachi. Dachi went to the capital market, and we have been able to pay liabilities of about 800 million Ghana cedis that you guys created when you were there. We queue to buy fuel and gas. We had to queue for 2 weeks. We couldn't have fuel to even buy unless we queue. It happened. Have you seen it happen right now? Under your word, self-inflicted, power crisis. Close to 4 years, we sat in darkness. That led to the crippling of the economy. The economy was in a messy situation. We came back, and we are reversing this decline in our economy, and we sit here and say, what? I'm telling you, my brother, but for the COVID and what is happening right now, this economy was on the path of progress. I mean, we cannot say.
So let me just cut to the chase. You're basically saying that no, we can't have continue. I'll give you a minute, but I just
it
wanted
can't
to,
be a minute. The man spent.
Now the FinSec.
Roxanne, on the show,
you are in charge.
I control this.
Yes,
let me moderate. Okay, let me moderate this. But at Pente says, in the fields of economics and strategy, a strategy of hope is a hopeless strategy. In the fields of economics and strategy, a strategy of hope is a hopeless strategy.
But you know something? Let me tell you something. Listen.
Tell me.
In the midst of crisis, in the midst of challenges, in the midst of difficulties, you need hope. In our own families, when situations get tough, we encourage them. We put hope in them. You see?
What happened? Are we now relying on
my brother, in US of A, they have the men, but they are going through challenges because of the crisis. You go to Germany, they have the men. Because of the crisis, they are going through issues. And I'm telling you that before 2019, the economy was progressing. It's a fact. They led primary balance of negative, I think negative 1% or so. We were able to 2017, 18, and 19, we recorded surpluses in terms of our primary balance and all that. Debt to GDP ratio.
So in a nutshell, there is hope.
There's hope because when there's life, there's hope. My brother, look at the budgets and see the intervention the government has put in. The FinSec, National Sector Cleanup.
30 seconds, just.
Saved about 100,000 jobs and over 4 million depositors of their savings. That's a fact.
Okay. I want us to quickly weave in the e-levy and how crucial it is to this conversation about the economy. But I want you to...
Kaku, this is a government that has been given power to levy 1% COVID recovery as a COVID recovery levy. Where is the money? What have they applied the money to? This is a government that has borrowed in excess of 240 billion in 5 years and has obtained, and yet they come back to Parliament and say we should give them 7 billion. Isn't 7 billion also a projection? So, and it's not correct that this economy, we left behind a negative a balance of payment. No. What he said cannot be correct.
I said primary balance.
Yes, it cannot be. In fact, the finance minister in the 2017 budget, hold on. The finance minister in the 2017 budget says that they inherited a very buoyant economy and they will build upon it. I have that budget statement. So when you sit here and contradict what your finance minister comes to Parliament to say,
thank you for...
It is neither here nor there.
Thank you, Roxanne. Let me come to you, Dr. Nyako. The e-levy.
Yeah.
How bad will it be if for our economy?
My brother, over the years in this country, we have been talking about the fact that we need to expand our revenue base. We need to work in more people to also contribute their quota in terms of paying taxes to move this country forward. Every government will need taxes, must borrow. We all know, my brother, that out of the potential 8 million taxpayers in this country, only a paltry 2.5 million pay direct tax.
Whose fault is that?
Pay direct tax in terms of
whose
income
fault is
tax.
that, Doc?
That is why we are putting in measures to
tax regime.
That is why
we're going
we are
to change
saying.
it.
That is why we are innovatively bringing in additional revenue stream in the form of the yield levy.
By double
to
taxing
help us.
people?
Double tax in terms of what? When you are giving your salary, okay, you pay VAT, don't you? Do you call that double tax? I think that paying tax is
I'm getting
a
my
responsibility.
income through mobile money means, and you know, already there are taxes that are incurred, and on that, any transaction I do following from that, you want to tax that as well. What do you call it?
You don't tax the whole amount. You also need taxes to build our countries. The countries we always refer to, the US, Germany, and all that, they build their economies on taxes as well. You can't go there and evade tax. It's difficult. But what we are saying is that we need to expand the tax base to be able to provide the social goods and services to benefit the people.
Do you know what this does? For people, indirect tax through different loops in the economy. And I also hit by this. Do you see the impact? I always share this story. I went to a restaurant once and you know, sometimes I just want to, you look at your, what do they even call that? The receipt? And you look at what you're paying for, the taxes we are paying, VAT components and street lights and everything. And add to the fact that people on a certain belt, people who are earning minimum wage and all of that, in fact, I may not be the most plaintive person, but they will feel the shocks more in terms of this Momo bit, because a lot of them are not transacting directly with banks. They are using Momo. You're going to be hitting them every time with the e-levy.
No, this is misleading. You don't say that,
what exactly about what I've said is misleading?
Correct.
Once they go over the threshold,
now you are
so
it means that if they don't go beyond it, they're not going to pay that levy.
We've been told in this country before that if a person can transact and send over 100 cedis, then the person is rich. Is that logical to you?
I've not said that. Okay. I've not said that.
The young government said so.
But I see. So this exemption of 100 cedis translates to 3,000 cedis in a month to be sending Momo almost every day. We have to be fair to ourselves and candid to ourselves. And how many times do we even send Momo to our relatives and friends and all that? I mean, it is every now and then. It's not that you do it every day. When people want to find an excuse to reject something, you can get them. But you see, the bottom line is that we all admit in tax to GDP ratio is 16.5%. Ghana is doing about 12.2%. One of the lowest within the sub-region. You go to South Africa, a population of 59 million people, their tax to GDP ratio is about 26%. You go to Senegal, a population of about 16.7 million, their tax to GDP ratio is 16.4%. Just 0.1% below the threshold.
You say that you're looking out for the easiest way, which will not necessarily, in the long term, help the tax, revenue collection of the state.
You see, it is.
There are measures you can put in place long term, but you're not willing to do that. You want low hanging fruit.
No, it's not. You see, I become a bit sad when we make some of these. That will help us to raise in additional revenue to help our economy. The reversal of the benchmark values is one of them. The common platform, in terms of dealing with the property tax, is one of them. There are other measures they raise, for example, revenue assurance, compliance, and enforcement that is put in place to ensure that lazy man's approach. It is an innovative way of getting more money to build our economy. Are you aware that last year, mobile money transaction in this country was close to $1 trillion.
I am aware of that.
Are you aware?
The billions in there. But,
so as a
but
government,
you're also aware that why aren't you targeting the vendors, for example? And when you look at the pool of people, you see people with different lines and all of that. It is the same people you're going to be taxing on different networks with the same. It's not an expanded population. It's the same population you're looking at.
You see, I want to plead with Ghanaians, my friend, and those in the minority, that we have a country to build into. The discussion, and we are trying to do something differently. What is important about the e-levy is that it's not a one-off intervention. If it's accepted and implemented, it's going to be an additional revenue stream that's going to help us. We shouldn't create the impression that the projected 7 billion, okay, it's only for this year. I don't even think we can realize that. But the point is that if it becomes each year for 5 years, we are talking about 25 billion. If we agree that the cedi dollar parity is 7 cedi to a dollar, we are talking of about 3 billion. 3 billion. Let's even say 8. Let's even for the sake of it's 8. That's on the
if it is 7, you're looking at $1 billion.
No, we are talking about $3 billion. Within that 5 years. And that.
Going to Roxy.
Yes,
give me a yes or no answer. So are you telling me, Dr. Nyako?
My brother, what's your name? So that I mention your name, because we met it for the first time, Please.
Benjamin Akaka.
Ben Akaka.
Are you telling me that without the e-levy, government business will come?
You speak to you on JoyNews.
Say you levy no ama.
He's from Kwada, so let me.
Say you levy no ama. Oman emmo. You levy no ba be boyen ama omano atumpon akronim ententem.
In English.
What I'm saying is that if without a e-levy, this economy,
just for Roxy,
this economy is not going to fix it.
Thank you. Your quick take on the e-levy.
You see, when you come to me and say my quick take, you prick my anger.
Your take on the e-levy.
Thank you.
And moving forward.
Ben, is it not interesting that a government that shouts to the rooftop that they've created millions, they are still lamenting that only 2.5 million Ghanaians pay tax?
Direct taxes I'm talking about.
Yes.
Direct taxes.
Is it not interesting? So the millions of jobs that they created for these people who are in the public sector, what are they doing? So you see, if you run the economy,
that's a curious.
Yes, if you run the economy properly, you've created millions of jobs. I am not saying you have.
Clinics are part of them.
You have canvassed the statistics.
And clinics are part of them.
That you've created over millions of jobs in the economy.
Yes.
You actually rebase the economy and say that the economy is now greater in terms of volume. You still are saying that still the people paying tax. So you see, the fundamentals are exposing they haven't done focal about the economy.
Oh, come on.
They haven't.
Come on.
No, the number of people who pay tax, that figure alone tells you that this government hasn't added anything.
But
because if you have added to the movement in the number of people who pay tax. So that is my first point. My second point, look, e-levy is a very criminal way of taking money from us.
The e-levy is what?
It's a very criminal way.
Criminal.
Way. They don't.
The government is trying to raise.
It's a criminal way of taking money from our electronic pockets. If you understand the infrastructure of the e-levy system, you will see that I decide to put money in my electronic wallet. That is not your money. It is part of our social culture that when I leave to buy petrol, government says when I decide to do that electronically, I should pay a tax on it.
What's wrong about that?
There's everything fundamentally wrong with it. That if I decide to give money to a couple in the streets, you want to tax it. Is that your money? What have you done?
And in this context where you're talking of money, you are giving the...
No, let me change.
It would be interesting
if I don't give you. So that is the fundamental basic meaning of e-levy.
Right.
We have told them, I'm paying service charges of 1 + 1. One goes to the service render, the other goes to the payment system service provider. Government is already taxing that fee. That says that for doing this transaction, I should pay another 1.75. When you do the analysis for them, then they appreciate it, but then they become intransigent. As we speak, GRA is training its staff how to implement e-levy. When you are doing, you want to railroad the policy through. You think that
So the stance of the minority still is that you're going to resist?
Because this government is not showing remorse. They don't give a damn to what we think. They are not even willing to meet us midway.
But aren't you looking at the economic fortunes of the country?
Which economic
and they are
fortune?
saying
Which to a prudent manager. You listen to a prudent manager and empathize with him when he demonstrates that the funds that are coming to him is applying need to the projects and the programs that you have agreed on. This government is not doing that. Even when you spend the money, we ask you to come and account. Which procedure?
For you, it is e-levy chaso.
E-levy has no life. The e-levy is gone. E-levy is gone.
Whenever it is tabled in Parliament, you'll still,
E-levy is not on the
no, I'm saying whenever it is.
Well, we've asked them. Even a message to the nation, a message to the state of the nation for the first time in our fourth Republican constitutional history, it's been deferred.
For the first time, there was a brawl in Parliament. For the first time, there was a brawl.
Oh yes, because you wanted to subvert. You wanted to subvert
an illegality.
I have. You wanted to subvert the constitutional order. We will not permit you. The same constitution.
Hold on.
I have the floor.
You are done. He's my friend, so
I see. I'm your enemy.
I'm helping him.
I'm your enemy.
You're pleading with them to do what?
To help us pass the e-levy.
Which will help you.
Because
they are pleading with you. They are saying that
they will get our help if they demonstrate candor.
I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now. I'm doing that right now.
You are not demonstrating reasonableness in your public expenditure. You are not being candid with the people. Who won't give you e-levy?
Dr. Nyako live on JoyNews.
Yeah.
Pleading with Roxanne Nelson.
My good friend too.
My
good friend.
When you go to court with a plea, when you go to court with a plea, you must persuade them.
This is where we have to draw the curtains on the conversation. It's been interesting, and I wish all of you, both sides, the best in Parliament. We want to see government business. I mean, moving forward, because like it or not, this economy must move on. And if it doesn't, we're all going to.
They run the economy again.
I like your concluding comments.
For
those of you watching, thank you very much. We've been joined by guests Roxanne Nelson, Dafiamepo, Member of Parliament for South Dai, and Dr. Kingsley Nyako, Member of Parliament for Kwada. So the conversation continues as we talk about the graphic business Stanbic breakfast meeting. We are also interacting with the Ghana International School. All of that in the next 30 or so minutes. Well, let's talk another interesting bit that comes our way year in, year out. I'm talking about the graphic business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting. The theme for this year, integration of e-service into our economy, implications for economic growth and quality of life. And we're delving into that conversation right now with our guests who join us in the studio. We have Charles Benoni Okain, Acting Director, Graphic Business. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. So I'll start with you, Kojo. You have partnered on this for many years now. It's been we've worked with you on this entire journey for quite a while now. And when you came into the studio, you were trying to jog my memory on some of those bits. Here we are again, the graphic Stanbic business breakfast meeting. What is new this year?
Well, as they say, in event, the same property, the same main partners, definitely the topic is new. We're focusing on, as you said, issues around e-services. You can broaden it beyond what you call e-commerce, but all the great things that have happened to us in the last 4 or 5 years where digitization and all things internet have happened. So as a society, this new area and how it applies to our way of life. That is what is new. But as I said, it's the same partners, it's the same river. But we're not stepping in it twice.
Nowadays, we're talking about e-everything.
Yes, sir.
E-electronic into every facet of our lives. And it's important, crucial, in fact, in these times of COVID-19, which at a point left us all locked up in our homes and having to transact. In fact, the likes of Zoom and others have made fortunes on the back of one. It makes sense for us to tap into that as a country. Which brings me to you, Charles. Now, in partnering and pushing this agenda from the standpoint of graphic business, what is, I don't want to say what is new this year, but what is pushing this theme that we have for this year? How relevant is it in these?
Yes, governments have been trying to ensure that services go online, you know, and we've seen the vice president doing digitalization, trying to digitalize government services. It makes it easy for people to access. People can be home and do their services 24 hours. They don't need to go to, you know, the vendors to take that kind of service. I can attest to, or we can all attest to, how the issues of passport application has become so easy because it is online. What do you call it? The banking services is online. So it doesn't make people go to the, you know, brick and mortar to sit down and then get this thing done. Now, for us as graphic business, you know, we always set the business agenda. We've tried to pick out very topical issues, but which many people do not have, you know, the opportunity to discuss.
Right.
And then we assemble for people to discuss. And then from what they say, because we use experts and all, people begin to appreciate, and then, you know, it also helps to, you know, it becomes a guide for policy.
Right.
For government to also look at the
in the industry, and then even beyond that, at the national level, for government to
businesses
take advantage of that as well.
So we set the business agenda, and this time, that's
the people who would ensure that this breakfast meeting actually, how would I say it, is executed to perfection. And year out, we've had some stalwarts in the business industry, you know, getting into that. What sort of people are we looking at? In terms of those
so we are looking at people with background in IT and what do you call that? That's Aduma Osu. She's very knowledgeable when it comes to e-services. You know, because of Visa, you know, we pay most of our services using the Visa.
When you mentioned Visa, and of course, MasterCard comes to mind, and Russia comes to mind immediately. But
yeah, they are all in there. And then we have one other person called Fred Frimpong, who is the head of financial services at Jumia Ghana. You know, they also offer services, you know, he's a technology planner, and Francis Appiah. So basically, we've broken down the theme into 3 thematic areas.
Okay.
Yes, if you don't mind, I can run you through it.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so we
Give us
have
some perspective on that.
Yeah, some perspectives. So the first one is the creative revenue generation opportunities of e-service solutions to economic growth. And we exactly. Okay. So he is very well knowledgeable in this area, and we think he can deliver well for us. And then Fred Frimpong will tackle unpacking the e-service solutions and contribution to quality of life. You know, if you look at Jumia, they sell products online. It helps, you know, to improve the quality of life. And then finally, the impact of e-service on economic growth and businesses. That will be handled by Francis Appiah. So these are guys who know them Ghana, but all over the world, and government as well.
Let me come to you, Kojo. So as you partner once more in this all-important exercise that you've been conducting every year, what other details of the program would you like to share with us? And what can people expect as this graphic Stanbic breakfast meeting comes off for yet another year?
So at the top, let me take us to the flow of the program. So we expect guests to be in by 7 o'clock. So for breakfast, our panelists will take on the various teams. At the same time as this thing is happening, remember on the graphic digital channels, right? Especially Facebook, this is being shown. And the same applies to the Stanbic digital channels, especially Facebook. I guess we can also believe that Joy will be part of that.
So we're also going online, social media. Okay.
So as it's happening, what it means is that you have people who can then join in virtually to also make their contributions, even as we have a few more people in there. So for 2 hours, we tackled with the key stakeholders in government. So we see the way forward on how this new world, you know, they used to say that digital is in the future. I think it's here now, just to ensure that we don't get overtaken by time.
And I know you're partnering, of course, Joy Business, the Labadi Beach Hotel, where this time and again has been held, and Graphic News.
This time we are not doing it because of COVID. Usually we used to have about 400 people seated, but this time we're going to have about 70 to 100 people.
Right.
So the rest can watch online. Okay. We haven't, those who want to participate can reach yvonne.ie at graphic.com.gh. You send...
The IE is what? A-R-Y-E-E?
Yeah, A-R-Y.
Just for someone who might... Okay.
A-R-Y-E-E.
Okay.
At graphic.com.gh. And then, or call her on 0277, because it will be strictly by invitation.
Thank you. Kojo, 20 seconds.
All I would say is that join us. Let's continue with the conversation. Let's continue to be citizens and not spectators.
Let's continue to be citizens, not spectators. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. But we're not wrapping up yet. There's still a lot more, and it has to do with musical adaptations a la Ghana International School. And here we are hosting the Ghana International School. It's all about their latest musical adaptation. I've been to some of these adaptations, so I know exactly what they're capable of. But this morning we're joined by Olivia Lecoson, who is a Media and Communications Manager with the Ghana International School. We also have Maureen Gentileza, a student, joining the conversation. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Let me start with you, Olivia. And the Ghana International School organizes this from time to time. Like I said, I think I've attended two of the one on Egypt.
Yeah, Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt and,
yes.
and all of that.
And
amazing.
Merchants of Venice as well.
Exactly.
Tons of
Shylock and all of
exactly.
But you do these from time to time.
Yes.
Why? Is it to unearth artistic talent in the students?
Certainly it is. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So it's not always about academics. It's very important to include the arts in learning. It creates a platform for students to open up, for students to show off what they have. And if you don't create that platform, you end up finding that they have so much inside of them, but there's no opportunity to see it.
Right.
For Prince of Egypt, for example, it was interesting because the script was put together by Dr. Mary Shen, and students were so creative that they came up with musical, putting sounds together, and they were putting lyrics together that
so the students are very involved in
this.
They
are very, very, very involved with the acting, and they have to memorize these scripts and be on stage and be confident enough to tell the story. So all of that, if you don't create such platforms, you never know what.
How long have you been doing this now? How long have you been organizing such
For
events?
a good 12 years.
12 years?
Yes,
so is this like
12th musical adaptation.
12th musical adaptation.
So,
for you, Maureen, Olivia has already spoken about how much of an integrated process it is. You are very much in the thick of things. What has the experience been like preparing for the next adaptation that we're going to be having?
Right, so this year, GRS is going to be staging Death and the King's Horseman by Willie Shoyenka. I myself am a character in the play. I'll be playing the character of Jane Pilkings. And the lines
Do you love that character?
Yes, it is interesting. However, it's also diverse. in terms of what I believe in and what my character believes in. Inside with what I believe in, and in other values it doesn't.
Okay.
Yes.
But what's the experience been like? I mean, is this your first time getting into a role like this, playing, a part in a play, so to speak, a musical adaptation?
All right, actually it's not. I was in Merchant of Venice.
Okay.
Yes, and I played the role of a waitress actually. So this time it is a bit different in the terms of I am one of the main characters and I have a lot more lines to learn and a lot more stage presence.
Challenging, right?
Yes, it is, but it's also fun.
Olivia, tell us about some of the other adaptations you've had. And do you ever involve other schools?
Yes. Like you were saying, we've done Les Miserables.
Sound of Music.
Sound of Music.
That's a classic.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I could go on and on. But what we tend to also do is we tend to include other schools. So some years ago, we included La Wireless cluster of schools.
Okay.
So GIS is always opening up their doors to underprivileged schools so that they can either come do musicals with us. So it was interesting to see students from a different background come and integrate with our students. And our arms were so open that on stage, you couldn't tell a GIS student from a non-GIS student. So exactly.
I haven't been able to tell. So that's some pretty good integration work you do there. And of course, I think it also helps, there are the so-called endowed schools and the not so endowed ones. So the mixture, of course, works very well. But so this year's musical, Death and the King's Horseman, how did you come by that? Maybe
musicals. So the focus is more on the songs, the lyrics, the harmony. However, this year, since we're doing an adaptation of Death and the King's Horseman, it's a play. And so the focus now is on the acting.
Right.
And the literary work, the pieces by Wole Soyinka, which is a beautiful work. So we've been working really hard. We've been making sure to do justice to his work. And I believe that it's all come together well, and I'm sure people would really enjoy the play.
How many of you are going to be on set? What's the preparation been like?
There's been a lot of preparation. So we have the main characters, and then we have backstage, we have props, we have the media team. And so all together, we have costumes, and all of this is usually student-based. So the costumes, it's the students leading it. The characters is the students.
About 60 in total in terms of the crew. Who are going to be putting this entire thing together. I love that it's very student-driven as well, because then, like we were talking about, the talents come to bear.
Right. Yeah. So let's focus on this year's play. Where and when is it taking place?
It's happening this Friday and Saturday, 18th and 19th of March, 2022, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the National Theatre. And you don't want to miss it. I mean, it's the weekend. Take a chill pill. Ghana International School. And we've been doing this for years, 12 years. And I mean, we're the pace setters when it comes to musicals. We're the pace setters, especially within the school.
We'll give you that.
We'll
give you that.
Exactly. So you don't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. Our literature teachers from Mr. Jakamani to Mrs. Vanderpoort to Mrs. Odampton. Like, they have been on their toes day, noon, and night with these students and people who work behind the scenes on the principal. I mean, I could go on and on.
Right.
So just come and support them. And plus, what makes this musical even more, not a musical, the play, even more interesting is the fact that it's going to be used as an educational piece at the end of the day.
Oh, I see.
So, yes, so it will be available in libraries for literature students to have access to it. It's a learning material. It's literature thick. So at the end of the day, it's for a good cause. So schools who don't have that, luxury to watch it in action can easily have it in the libraries. So yeah, the text and the video.
That's a novelty, right? It's a new bit.
Yeah, it is a new bit.
Wow, that's refreshing. So as I take your final words, I'd also like to find out, is it gratis? Do we have to pay? How much is involved? It's very important. So if you're coming, you're trooping to the National Theatre, how much is it going to cost you?
We're looking at 100 CDs for adults and 50 CDs for students.
Okay.
So if you're a student, just get your tickets, where to get your tickets, you can easily pop by Ghana International School. We have a welcome center. Come to us, the secondary school section. Come to the welcome center and purchase your tickets there. It's not a problem. Or you can dial the hashtag.
Yes. So it's *389 *65#.
Could you slow down and give that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Star.
So it's *389 *65#.
One last time.
*389 *65#.
All right.
I had to borrow her amazing memory.
Right. Final words, 10 seconds each.
Oh, final words. Ghana International School will be expecting every single one of you. So make it a date. You learn so much. There's so many riddles. It gets you thinking. So come and have fun. Don't miss it.
Yes, I agree with Miss Olivia. I think everybody should make time. They should come and watch. The students have honestly put a lot of effort into this play, months of effort, schoolwork, all together. We've been able to manage everything. And so I just hope that everyone enjoys it and sees what we have to display.
Exactly.
All right, so we'll all be trooping there Friday, Saturday, and it's going down. Olivia Lecosson, Media and Communications Manager with the GIS, thank you for coming. And of course, Maureen Gentileza, student. Big ups. That's how we wrap the show for another morning. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Have a wonderful day.